Hey guys, welcome to another MLS Updater. And today here to talk with Alex Windley once again about Inter Miami. And Alex, how are we doing?
Good, good, Michael. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. And thanks for giving up the time of which you must be very busy with all the news going
Yeah,
on around Inter
yeah,
Miami.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and there's no place we can start other than the Josef rumors coming across from Atlanta United. Looks like it's all going to be settled this week, as we were saying earlier. He's now going from one rival of Orlando to another. How is this being reported around the club? The excitement about the deal or possible sort of trepidations?
Yeah, I think the deal after Higuain's retirement, Miami were looking for a forward that can basically replace the goals that he and Campana scored. A collective, each had like about 12, 13 goals each. So Miami and Josef Martinez has essentially found a player who was able to do that. Plus, Miami is a Latin heavy, Venezuelan heavy city, so obviously Joseph will fit in down here. But yeah, we saw last year that sometimes Neville does like to go to two striker formation, and I foresee that happening this season as well with Campana and Martinez. Either of them could start on their own, but I do think they'll switch back and forth depending on the opponent and the team, whether or not they'll start with two strikers up top or just one. So yeah, huge get from Miami, especially if he's on a non-DP deal that will allow Miami to maybe bring in Pozuelo or someone else if they so choose. So a lot of flexibility with this deal and a great player. Although he's on the decline a little, it's still a good signing from Chris Anderson and for Inter Miami.
Yeah, it seems like we spoke before last year about Phil Neville, and he seemed we during when we last spoke, we said that he has his limitations maybe tactically, but he seems to have proven this year, and he's got a lot of confidence in dealing with big name players. I guess some of that confidence comes with being friends with David Beckham. It gives you a little swagger, doesn't it? But he's dealt with some very difficult periods with some big name players, and I guess when the factoring in bringing in Joseph, some clubs may not have known how their manager could deal with it. I guess that shows how much faith into Miami have in Neville managing him in this squad.
Yeah, and they renewed him for a 1 year deal too. So they could have easily sacked him at the end of last season, although it would have been a little harsh considering he
Yeah,
got them to the playoffs for second time, but I call it the first, but the playing
yeah,
round didn't really count. But yeah, I think Neville has shown that he's able to deal with personalities like that. With Higuain, he outright benched him, and Campana was able to flourish under that, and so with Joseph, I don't think it'll real be a big of an issue, especially since he's coming into a very harmonious locker room with leaders like Yedlin and Gregory's there. Even some of the younger guys, Drake Calendar and Mabika, they've stepped up and shown that they've kind of got this culture going on. So Joseph is just going to slot in there quite nicely. And Phil Neville obviously Phil Neville is bilingual as well, so Spanish won't be an issue. So and obviously I'm sure Joseph speaks English, but
yeah.
yeah, it should be a smooth transition, and he should get along pretty great, especially guys like Pizarro who may not have had thrived with Higuain and some of the previous locker rooms. We were at training camp just last Monday, and Neville did mention that um, some previous locker rooms that Pizarro that he was in when he was with Miami, it may have not been the best for him and his personality. So, coming back into the fold now, I think there's a much a calmer group of players around him, so that probably shouldn't win it. It shouldn't be an issue either.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and Pizarro is one I'd like to get to. But well, you mentioned obviously with Campana and Higuain, there was that rotation as well as bringing two players up top or one being benched. I guess what's important for Neville is that keeping players fit. Campana had periods last season with injury. Joseph has his sort of recent injury history of coming back from something. So managing those minutes is going to be important. And I guess going into a side that's going to be quite flexible on formation as well is going to be really necessary in managing their minutes as well to get the best out of them.
Yeah, and I think Campana, a lot of his injuries were due to maybe the training staff probably rushing him back a little too quickly. A lot of muscle injuries, you can't rush those. So maybe they pushed him a little bit too hard. But yeah, Campana is normally one of the fitter guys on the team, so hopefully that is not an issue. But if he does go through an injury stretch like last season, Joseph is there. They also signed guys like Quarantine Jean, Nicholas Stefanelli, who can play as a nine. Robbie Robinson's back after his injury. So, like you said, there is flexibility there. And if that one guy goes down, there are Miami's like four deep in the center forward spot now. So, and some of them can't play as wingers too. So that front three is or front four, whatever. They're
Yeah.
super flexible. So, yeah, that really shouldn't be an issue. I hope.
Yeah. Okay. Going on, I just want to touch on Corentin Jean, as you mentioned him. He only managed 73 minutes last season, but got an assist in that short period of time. He's still coming back from injury, I believe. Is there much reporting on him? He's come across from France, and he looked like he could be a really exciting addition, but things have been put in the way that have forced his sort of impact to be delayed somewhat.
Yeah, just injuries really, after that Cincinnati game, he had a long he came from the league on season straight into MLS, so he didn't really get time to rest and those minutes that he played it didn't help him. So I was at training camp last Monday and he was there and he was joking and laughing around with the guys and he looks super fit, so that shouldn't be an issue either. Hopefully he's able
Yeah.
to integrate well too.
No, that's exciting. So it'll be quite a new front line. Obviously, you mentioned Nicholas Stefanelli coming in from Sweden as well. So there's a number of new players coming in to add to that attack as well. And with the number 10 position, we've mentioned Pizarro is back in training. There's sort of reports that for long periods of time now that we're just waiting for him to leave to free up a DP spot. But with the changes that have been happened, and there's still questions over Pozuelo whether he will return. What's your thoughts and what's your preferences, I guess, as someone who covers this team, of who you think should they keep hold of, should they try and move on, who would fit best?
I think it's really telling. Last week, Neville spoke about Pizarro and how they look at him as a new player, and he said that he came back, he looks fit and motivated and ready, and even talking to people around the club, they say that this is the best they've seen Pizarro even since his 2020 and 2021 days. So he looks uber motivated and ready to go. And also speaking with Robbie Robinson, he mentioned how glad the locker room was back to have Pizarro. So that's super telling. And it does hint that maybe if they can't find a suitor, maybe Pizarro will probably stay, which isn't ideal for Miami. But reports of Gregory being a DP aside, that should get cleared up if they sign. We'll get into this later, but Campana, let's say Pizarro's still the DP. Technically, they should have one open DP spot, so they can possibly re-sign Pozuelo if it gets to that point. I don't know. Like I said, everything is fluid and the roster compliance date isn't until February 24th, so they have plenty of time to figure all that out. But yeah, with Pizarro, a lot of the guys were super excited to have him back, and even Neville said, like I said, he's a new player and he looks fit and motivated. So yeah, if they can't find him a place to ship him out to, I think he'll definitely stay and be sort of a break in case of emergency. We need a emergency 10 if Pozuelo. Let's say if they re-sign Pozuelo, he's out injured. Pizarro can spot start for him, and let's say John Mata gets out, he's out due to yellow card accumulation. He could start there. So I think he'll just be one of those rotational guys. Even though he is a DP,
Yeah.
it's just the way it is at this point.
Yeah, it's been, from what you're saying, there's obviously been a few seasons where decisions have been made and some have been regretted, somewhat with some of the signings, obviously. But they seem to, what's telling from what you're saying about your experiences around like monitoring the team and catching up at training camps, that there's actually a really good sort of bond amongst the group now, and it's a team. It's not just these big individuals that we're all expecting that will come in and take over MLS that didn't quite work out. They've got Neville and the whole group seem to have got a team going. So when players who aren't in the best of form or haven't had the best relationships within the squad, they now have this second opportunity, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that'll help be helpful for the team heading into the season. They did speak about wanting to win silverware this year, whether it be with the Leagues Cup or US Open Cup. They want to get to the Champions League, so Miami will definitely be looking to push and win some sort of silverware this season.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
interesting because then I mean, we mentioned before we started Franco Negri's come in at left back. Another quite, I believe from what I've been watching, still a decent attacking fullback, but also someone very good defensively, which is going to help boost your like the back line, which was at times like, it seemed to be at times there was a bit like difficulties and there was still
yeah.
growing pains, but when things actually clicked, they were in really good form and with great Challenger behind them in goal. There was there was the base of something to really work on to improve defensively and make yourselves quite hard to beat.
Yeah, and Miami were in for Aaron Long earlier in the offseason, but he went to LAFC. So
Yeah.
they are looking for a center back. So whether it gets done now or in the summer, yeah, they are looking to strengthen that back line. Left back was a huge gaping hole there. Chris McVeigh was playing there, but he's a center back by trade. So bringing in Negri will just help that depth as far as left back goes with Kieran Gibbs and Noah Allen. So yeah, they are still looking for a center back as well. So let's see what happens on that front.
Yeah. Okay. Talking about players who have moved on. Higuain announced his retirement, which has formed some of these changes up front. He's had an up and down career in Inter Miami, I guess you could say. But where would you say he fits as people look back on his legacy at Inter Miami? Is he considered somewhat of a club legend now?
Um, uh, Honestly, I think I'd have to speak with more fans to see what they say. But as far as his whole tenure goes, I think large parts of it wasn't
Yeah.
wasn't successful. Honestly, when he got there, he struggled to in his first couple months in the league, and then 2021 he did kick on, and I think recalling he was the team's top scorer, and then 2022 happened and, he was sulking, got benched, and he came back and he went on that scoring tear. But I think that scoring tear was more so of him acknowledging that he's about to retire. So he wants to go out, playing well and on a bang. So, let's not sulk and try to give something before I retire. So, but as far as the club legend goes, yeah, I mean, he's one of the more notable players that have played for the club. I'll even throw Blaise Matuidi in there, even though he didn't have a good career with Inter Miami.
Mm.
He's a World Cup winner, and he played for Juventus and PSG and all these big clubs. So as far as notability, yes, Higuain and Matuidi, not well, club legend. Higuain maybe. I don't know. I think it's too soon to tell. Maybe in
Yeah.
the next 3 or so years we can look back. But as far as notability, yes, Higuain and Matuidi, they're huge. But as far as Higuain's impact later in his Inter Miami career, yes, he absolutely did. But for Matuidi, no. But in Higuain's case, in his earlier Inter Miami career, not so much. Later, yes. And Matuidi, it was yeah, just a bad deal for
Yeah.
all parties. But yeah, notability, yes, there are absolutely one of the more well-known Inter Miami players. As far as club legends, come back to me in like 2 years or three,
Yeah.
and we could see.
Yeah, I think from the way the club seem to be operating now, though, it seems there's a little bit more stability. Like it's hard to really look back at some of these players and really define how big they are for the squad because there was so many changes and it was a constant rotation of a roster every year on year on year. And now this off season, it seems to be a little bit more sort of pragmatic approach to okay, let's just look at the areas we need to address and who best fits this rather than the big name signing, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, and especially with Chris Henderson coming in, and Seattle's way of doing things, he sort of has implemented that here in South Florida with bringing in players that may not be superstars, but they'll fit in well. So like Pozuelo, getting him on that deal that they did last season. Josef Martinez, he's both Pozuelo and Martinez well known around MLS. They're bringing in guys like that who are MLS known and can contribute straight away instead of maybe waiting for an Edison Cavani or Luis Suarez like they did back in 2019, 2020. So it's much more grounded and foundational with some of these guys. Of course, there is the odd Messi rumor. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. Let's see. But at the end of the day, you need that core first, and that's what Chris Henderson has built so far.
Yeah, I guess it must get quite frustrating hearing all these messy rumors
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it'll
consistently.
happen eventually. It's just, it's messy and it's up to his time. Miami has been interested in him, and there are credible reports that there are, and they do want to bring him to the club, but like I said, it's up to Messi if he wants to renew with PSG and then come to Inter Miami, or go to Inter Miami this summer. I don't know, but
Mm.
I'm sure it'll happen eventually.
Yeah, I guess for like for fans at least now though they can see their side being built and it's like, well, if we can add Messi, that's fantastic. Who wouldn't?
Yeah,
But we're actually progressing now. We're not just holding out all our hopes on bringing him in.
yeah, for sure.
One player who's come through the academy and signed as a homegrown, Benjamin Kremashi, is highlighting some of the great work that's going on in the academy as well. So it's not just bringing in players; they've been working very hard in their development. Can you tell us a little bit about Benjamin Kremashi?
Yeah, he's a great player, box to box midfielder. Obviously signed a homegrown contract later last year, end of 2022. Only 17. He's turning 18 in March, I think. I don't know. I hope Google isn't wrong, but
Yeah.
yeah, super talented player. Argentine, a dual international along with the United States. Yeah, super energetic, good technically, great box to box player. Physically, he's taller than some of the senior guys, so that
Okay.
bodes well when, that midfield position. Obviously, you need some physicality to play in MLS. Yeah, just a super great player, really young player. He will probably definitely get minutes this season with all the competitions Inter Miami will be in, with the Leagues Cup, US Open Cup, regular season, and if they make the playoffs, he'll get minutes. Um, yeah, and yeah, he's just a really great player. He's from one of the local clubs, um, Weston FC, which is pretty well known for churning out talent. So yeah, it's not a shock that he signed a deal. I was speaking with some of my colleagues in this WhatsApp group we have. Months and months ago, I
Mm.
was wondering, when is Kremeshki going to sign his homegrown deal, because he was ready. Like, watching him for Inter Miami CF2, he was ready. I was really pleased to see Fabrizio Romano report that Miami did sign him, and then eventually see him sign for the first team. So yeah, he'll get some minutes this season, and yeah, a really great player, really great. Yeah, just I'm really high on his talent, and hopefully he'll be able to do well for Miami this season.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like a good area as well on the pitch where you could use that cover to give players like Gregory and Diamata, but like just even if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the end of the game, just to say, right, okay, if you're in a position where we can give you a bit of a rest and get so one of these young players some experience, I think that's probably going to be quite important for the roster really as well.
Yeah, and it's Inter Miami love to David Beckham and Chris Henderson said that they wanted to make it a point to bring guys and younger players in through the academy. So Kremeshki, alongside of with guys like Ian Frey, Noah Allen, Felipe Valencia, Edison Ascona. Those are all homegrown players that have come through and have signed first team deals. So Kremeshki is just one of hopefully many more to come.
Wow, fantastic. So reached the playoffs last season, as we mentioned. Somewhat exceeding expectations. Many at the beginning of the season, anyway, would have tipped you for finishing along quite similar lines to DC United in some ways. But
Yeah.
Neville got everything going, and the team got together and reached the playoffs. With the squad that he's forming again now, is this a realistic target once again? And especially as you look around the league, the other side's improving on paper, as we can only see at the moment. But yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, they want to push for a home playoff spot. They were very close to it last season. I think some of their early season losses to like Austin FC and maybe even LAFC before they really got settled hurt them in the long run, but they were close to a home playoff spot, and that's their goal this season. It's to win silverware and to get a home playoff spot in the top four. So yeah, they're capable. They just need to like I said earlier, fix the back line, the center backs, and get that attack really gelling and going and get it cohesive. But yeah, they do want to push for a top four spot in the East. It'll be difficult because there's teams like Philly and Montreal, although and even Philly, Montreal. My mind is blanking right now, but there are a lot of good teams in the East that
Oh yeah,
FC Cincinnati, that will just improve, and Miami needs to improve, and Atlanta, they're going through a rebuild. Orlando City, they've signed a lot of great attacking talent, so it's going to be
yeah.
difficult, but Miami are answering back with Martinez, with potentially bringing back Pozuelo, bringing in guys like Stefanelli, Negri, signing their homegrown talent. So it'll be hard, but like I said, if they can finish sixth last season with the DP who barely contributed until the tail end of the
Yeah.
season, imagine what they can do with a full strength squad, with Martinez at the beginning of the season, so yeah, it's they're pushing for a top four spot and maybe some silverware this season.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you where Neville's really going to be focusing on in recruitment wise, and I guess that's going to is it just centre back now, or is there other areas do you think he'll be sort of keeping an eye out?
Yeah, no, I think Neville did specifically say he wants two or three players to push to help them push for the top. So whether that be in defense or definitely in attack for sure. You see with the Josef Martinez acquisition, he wants two or three players to take Miami from this foundation they have to upper echelon of the Eastern Conference. So I don't think it's any specific spot, but with the attack almost sorted out with they just need to maybe resign Pasuelo, get the Joseph deal over the line. I think they'll definitely focus on defense, whether, like I said, they bring in a center back now or in the summer, or they roll with Christopher McVeigh, Damian Lowe, Mabika, Ryan Saylor, Ian Frey. Let's see. But yes, they definitely do want to strengthen that back line.
And is there any of these young players that you think's really going to sort of catch the eye of people who don't follow into Miami closely but follow the league? Is there someone who's going to is a breakout star maybe in this squad?
I'm gonna say Emerson Rodriguez. I know he got a lot of flack last season for maybe not finishing as well as he should be, as he should, or not, or taking too much time on the ball. But I think with any young player, I believe he's only 21, 22. It takes time to adjust, even though it is
Yeah.
Miami. Coming from the Colombian league where he was into the U.S., it still is a culture shock, and moving to a new country and getting
Mhm.
used to the language, even though Miami is Spanish speaking. Yes, they're we
Yeah.
still speak English here, obviously, but yeah, it could have been hard to him to for him to transition. So I think a year in MLS, usually year two players get acclimated a lot better, and
Mm.
he'll probably settle down a lot more. And he's a really talented player that just needs a run of games to really get going. A really electrifying winger that I'm high on, even though he has gotten some flack, but I think in year two he'll settle down, get more comfortable, and show why Chris Henderson brought him to the club last season in the first place.
Yeah, I remember reading a article from about from an interview, sorry, with Santiago Moreno up in Portland Timbers, and he mentioned when he came over from Colombia, it's such a change in the style of the league. Like the Colombian league's so transitional; it's a constant back and forth, and it took him a little while to get adapted. And he's gone on to great things. He was fantastic last season. So hopefully, is that what you're kind of hoping for in this situation?
Yeah, essentially, a lot of the second year guys like Robert Taylor, excuse me, even Christopher McVeigh, just guys coming over from different leagues. It takes time for them to get adjusted. So, Campana obviously probably wasn't one of them, but he had family down here, and he has an American passport, so it's more comfortable for him. So, yeah, hopefully they can make that transition, and it'll be a lot more smooth for them heading into year two.
So, and let's just finish up and wait. Are you feeling how positive you're feeling on Inter Miami's hopes reaching, well, those top four spots then, if that's what they're aiming for?
Well, I'm feeling as a journalist covering the team, the vibe feels very together, and it feels very focused. Heading into the training camp on Monday, the guys were super together, and last season they brought in 18 new players, so it was like like a day camp where you're getting to know your friends and whatnot.
Yeah.
But this season now they feel very together, and even welcoming Pizarro back into the fold. They feel very together, and even the new guys like Kremeshki and Jake LaCava, who we didn't mention, but I'm
Of
super high
course,
on him
yeah.
as well. Yeah, for a USL player from the Rowdies, he scored what, like 21 goals. It was or maybe even less than that, but I have to double check. But yeah, I'm high on him too. But they just welcomed him, all of the players super well, and they feel very together, and like they have one goal in mind. So I think that'll help them earlier in the season compared to last year, where they went on that was it 0-5 losing streak, and
Mm.
even I was questioning whether Neville was fit for the job, but now like he's shown that he's tactically flexible, that can bench players if they're not in form, and all of that stuff. So yeah, I think it's not necessarily it's positive, yes, but it's more of like a determination sort of feeling going around the training camp, and it shows. Last week it felt it was palpable, so
Mm.
it definitely shows.
Oh, excellent. So thank you so much for joining. It's really interesting to see where they're going, and such a change covering this team it must be from the
You
years prior.
you cannot imagine, like this season, it does feel very different. Yeah,
Yeah, you must have been able to. At least you've now got a chance to really go into depth and identify these players that are coming in, rather than starting to
yeah,
look and go, "Oh, another one, oh, another one."
yeah, yeah, for
But
sure. Yeah.
Alex, can you remind everyone where they can follow you throughout the season, just through this off season, just to get all the latest news on Inter Miami?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at AAW_1998 and at the Heron Outlet Substack at, well, just theheronoutlet.substack.com. We have free and premium articles. We're doing a lot of in-depth stuff over there. I've gotten interviews with a couple of journalists that cover players from other leagues that I was able to incorporate into pieces, just giving them people in-depth scouting reports into incoming players and whatnot. So probably the most comprehensive Inter Miami coverage, that you'll probably get anywhere really. So you can subscribe to the heronoutlet.substack.com and follow me on Twitter at AAW_1998.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Alex. You can follow me, guys. Remember at Mike Rice 1983. Thanks very much for listening. And Alex, I hope you have a great season following the team. And wishing them a lot of luck. Should be looks like it's going to be an exciting time to be following them.
Yeah, hopefully they'll do well. Neville definitely has the sport of the ownership now, so it's full steam ahead.
Brilliant. Thanks very much then.
Thank you for having me on.